कर्पूरगौरं करुणावतारं संसारसारं भुजगेन्द्रहारं सदा वसन्तं
हृदयारविन्दे सदा वसन्तं हृदयारविन्दे भवं भवानी सहितं नमामि भवं भवानी सहितं नमामि भवं भवानी सहितं नमामि।
ॐ जय गंगे माता मैया जय गंगे माता जो नर तुमको ध्याता जो नर मैया जी को ध्याता मनोवांछित फल पाता। ओम जय गंगे माता। चंद्र से ज्योत तुम्हारी जल निर्मल आता
मैया जल निर्मल आता
शरण पड़े जो तेरे
शरण पड़े जो तेरे सो नर जाता। ओम जय गंगे माता।
एक ही बार जो तेरी शरणागति आता
मैया शरणागति आता यम के त्रास मिटा कर यम के कष्ट मिटा कर परम गति पाता। ओम जय गंगे माता।
मंगलकारिणी मैया तू है सुखदाता
मैया तू है सुखदाता तेरी गोद में आकर तेरी शरण में आकर मन शांति पाता। ओम जय गंगे माता।
आरती मात तुम्हारी जो जननित गाता
मैया प्रेम सहित गाता दास वही असहज में भक्त वही असहज में मुक्ति को पाता। ओम जय गंगे माता। ओम जय गंगे माता।
मैया जय गंगे माता
जो नर तुमको ध्याता जो नर मैया जी को ध्याता मनोवांछित फल पाता। ओम जय गंगे माता। जय गंगे माता। जय गंगे माता।
त्वमेव माता
च पिता त्वमेव त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देव। सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग्। जय राधा रमण हरि बोल हरि बोल जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल जय राधा
हरि बोल हरि बोल जय राधा रमण हरि बोल
जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल हरि बोल जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल
जय राधा रमण हरि बोल हरि बोल जय राधा रमण हरि बोल
ओ जय जय राधा रमण राधा रमण जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल ओ जय जय राधा रमण
जय जय
राधा रमण जय राधा रमण हरि बोल जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल हरि बोल जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल जय राधा रमण हरि बोल हरि बोल जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल जय राधा रमण हरि बोल हरि बोल जय जय राधा रमण जय जय राधा रमण जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः
There's many different states, literally neurologic states. We speak of, here's what's exciting. Let me preface it with this. Here's what's exciting. What's exciting is, for me, when science discovers that which spirituality has been saying for thousands of years. I find that very exciting. I've got a scientific background. I love science. Science excites me. I find it fascinating. I still love it. I have absolutely no conflict between the science and the spirituality. They augment each other beautifully for me in my life, in my awareness, my thinking. The only dilemma comes when science tries to take jurisdiction over everything. When science tries to claim that its tools that it uses for science are actually the tools that should be used for all of knowledge and all of wisdom and all of truth. And that's where we get stuck. So the tools of science, we have machines that weigh, we have machines that measure, we have machines that look microscopically, we have machines that look telescopically, right? Telescopes, microscopes. And that's fantastic for the world that can be weighed or measured, for the world that actually has an area or a volume, or a mass, or a velocity, or a density. It's great for the world that is made up of molecules that you can see. But a lot of the world isn't. And this is the world over which spirituality has jurisdiction. And so for me, I find it very exciting when the two come together. And spiritually, we are told about different states of awareness. Neurologically now, we are told about different states of awareness. And interestingly, they actually match up very beautifully. The neurologists are going to talk to you about the frequency of the wave, literally. What does the pattern of the brain wave look like? What is that frequency? How high does it go? How low does it go? How much is the space between the next wave? Spiritually, they're going to talk energetically. But they're actually describing the same things. Now, the two states that you've spoken about, deep sleep and dream, I'm going to give it to you neurologically. I find it fun like that. So, neurologically, what we know is that in dream sleep, which is what we call REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, that is when we dream. Deep sleep, we are not dreaming. But deep sleep is actually what's called restorative sleep, colloquially, when you're talking about the different phases of sleep. Deep sleep is what's called restorative. Now, here's what's interesting. The wise people of all of the world's religious traditions have some variation of early to bed, early to rise, right? I don't know a religious tradition in the world that says, if you want to attain awareness, enlightenment, salvation, get up at 11 o'clock in the morning. It's the best time of day to wake up. It's all about wake up early in the morning, sleep early at night. Why? Well, we now know that actually the body has what we call a circadian rhythm, meaning in every 24 hours, there's a rhythm. And there's a rhythm of chemicals in the body. So there are times of day, for example, that we are more likely to experience pain than other times of day. If you had to have a painful surgery, there's actually a way to decide what time of day to have it. When you come out, you're less likely to be in pain. And what we know about the circadian rhythm of sleep is that earlier in the night, you spend a greater percentage of your time asleep in deep sleep than in dream sleep, which is why the yogis and the mystics don't speak a lot about the dreams they had. Right? You don't hear them saying, God, I had this dream last night. It's those of us who roll out of bed at 10 or 11 o'clock who say, oh my God, I had this dream. And here's why. Literally, the earlier you go to sleep, the more amount of time you spend in restorative sleep than dream sleep. As the night goes on, and especially into the early hours of the morning, regardless of what time you went to sleep. So it's not about how many hours after you go to sleep. It's actually about what time of night it is. You must have noticed it. Go to sleep at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. Even you give yourself 8 hours, you're not going to wake up fresh. You're going to wake up groggy, because you've spent the vast majority of those hours dreaming rather than restoring. Go to sleep at 9 wake up at 3 or 4, you've only had 6, maximum 7 hours of sleep, but you are going to wake up so fresh because the body has restored itself. We also now actually know endocrinology. I've spoken with Chinese medical practitioners who talk about which time of day is dedicated to different organs of the body. The time in which, for example, the liver restores itself is 11 to 3. But in order for your liver to restore itself, you have to already be fast asleep. You've only got those 4 hours. Go to sleep at 1, you've cut it in half. Well, what we know is that the liver is that which clears toxins out of our body. The later you go to sleep, the less of a chance you have for those toxins to be cleared out of the body. So, but going back to just the states of the brain, so the more I'm dreaming, the less I'm restoring. So the goal is to get as much as much deep sleep as possible, which you get the earlier you go to sleep. I'll give you one last interesting piece of neurologic and psychological trivia about that. They've done studies with people who are depressed, who suffer from depression. They bring them into a sleep lab, and every time their brains enter dream sleep, they wake them up. Now that could get quite annoying. Keep getting awakened, keep getting awakened, keep getting awakened. And after several days in the sleep lab, these people may be tired because, of course, they keep getting awoken throughout the night. But they have found that the depression dissipates. Now they're looking at why. What is it neurochemically? But what we know on a physical level, on a spiritual level, on a neurological level, on a psychological level, on an endocrinological level, if that's a word, is deep sleep, restorative sleep, is what you need. Dream sleep, fine, no problem. But try to schedule your sleeping hours in such a way that you're getting the vast majority of restorative sleep and less of the dream sleep. For your bodies, for your emotions, and also spiritually, because then of course you're up early. It's a glorious time of day. In Indian tradition we say Brahma Muhurt, right? The time of day dedicated to God. But if you don't go to sleep till 1, getting up at 4 is really hard. You're not going to make it very many nights. So you have to go to sleep early enough. And if not 4, 5, 5:30, 6. But not 9, 10, 11. That's already well into the daytime. You're getting pretty much nothing but dream sleep. You're not benefiting your body on any level by staying asleep. You're better off setting an alarm. If you go to sleep late, you're better off setting an alarm. Get up early. Be tired during the day, assuming you're not operating heavy machinery or something. And be so tired that you go to sleep early the next night. And start a pattern. What is cosmic energy? Energy that flows through the cosmos. Look, we can get really hung up on and even really excited by semantics. And we can walk away feeling like we've actually learned something. But actually all you've done is walked away with semantics. You've walked away with a definition, a category, a box, that says, okay, this is this, so we're going to call this cosmic energy over here, and we'll call this, divine energy over here, and we'll call that spiritual energy over here. So we end up with nice little boxes for things. But ultimately, the goal of spirituality is to break those boxes. And for those of us, myself included, who are academics by history, by experience, by make of the mind, it's really easy and really tempting to approach our spiritual path the same way that we approach everything in life, which is give me a name for it, give me a definition, I'm going to learn that, and then I'm going to believe that I somehow have a deeper understanding of it. But actually all you've done is stuck it in a box, and yourself in a box as well. Because once you have that box, you feel very content. Acha, now I know what that means. On to my next question. And the truth is, you actually aren't any closer to an experiential understanding of it than when you were when you began. I can give you a definition. And I will. We'll play with it for a minute. I'm not trying to avoid your question. It's just, we need to be wary of our urge to jump into putting the filter of what we do in school onto what we do in spirituality. Because then what you end up with is lots and lots of someone else's knowledge. But that's not why you came into spirituality. You came in for yourself. You came in presumably because on some level you are looking for something. Whether it's enlightenment, liberation, whether it's the whole way, or whether it's just peace and joy, a more meaningful life. But ultimately you're looking for something for you, for your life. And simply taking other people's knowledge and sticking it in boxes isn't actually going to get you there. And so the question always becomes, how can I take this? How can this impact my life? And so what I would say to you is, with the awareness that the true definition of all of this came long before the English language did, and so therefore we're already at a disadvantage, we're already an arm's length away from the truth by taking it and putting it not only in a box, but an English language box. The cosmos, right, is that which exists. There's fantastic documentaries done on them by lots of wonderful scientists, particularly a man named Carl Sagan, who did a whole series of them. Fascinating stuff. The energy of the cosmos is the energy that runs through everything. Because we are all included in the cosmos. So cosmic energy is going to be the energy that runs through it. Now, if you wanted to get really semantic, we could also go back and we could say, well, maybe cosmic energy is that which created or came out of our Big Bang, and we could go back to that. But at the most basic, cosmic energy is the energy that runs through the cosmos, which means it runs through me. Because I am part of the cosmos. Truth is, I'm actually part of something even bigger than the cosmos. Because that which I'm part of existed before the Big Bang. It existed before the cosmos as we know it came into being. It existed before we had our solar system, before we had any of this. That's when we talk about Sanatan, eternal. Eternal means eternal, right? No beginning, no end. So the energy that runs through me is the energy that is eternal. That which I am. As Lord Krishna explains so beautifully in the Bhagavad Gita, never was born, will never die, is eternal. And so when we think about cosmic energy, I would think about it really as the thread, in a way, that connects me to creation. When I sit and I look at the energy that runs through me, well, I'm sharing that energy with the world. It's coming in as I breathe in, I'm exhaling it as I breathe out, but I'm also taking in energy not just through my breath. We are electrical beings, literally. We have an electric charge, literally. Everything that happens in our bodies happens because of electricity. That's an energy. But it's not different from the energy that's making everything in the universe happen. Science puts things in boxes. That's what science does very well. So we can say light waves, we can say sound waves, we can say this is gravity, this is magnetic. We can box up our energy like that. But that's just so we can calculate it. It's actually all part of the same energy. They're just different waves. Look at the ocean. Got lots of different sizes of waves, lots of different frequencies of waves. Sometimes you have waves that look like this. Sometimes you have waves that look like that. Well, in the world we do too. Different frequencies, we call them different things. Moving at different speeds. But it's all us. It's all one. And so that energy is what connects us to the world. So as you feel it flow through you in any capacity, remember, wow, it's like that mantra I gave when we were doing the meditation. So hum, I am that. As you feel energy flow through you, just say to yourself, so hum, or I am that, or whatever version of that appeals to you. Because we are. And that energy, of course, reminds us that we're not separate from the rest of creation. That which flows through you flows through me. We call it spirit. We call it energy. But it's one. How does one find his or her true self? Well, the good news is that because it's us, we're not going into outer space. If you're looking for something outside of you, then the search is very complex. It requires perhaps some very special skill or some special technique or some special knowledge. But with the self, we're going inward. And so it doesn't actually require a special skill, a special set of knowledge. What it requires is the ability to distinguish not self from self. Because that which keeps us from living in our true self is just the not self. I mean, the true self is here. I'm not going to find my true self somewhere, lost in my garage or down the road or any anywhere other than here. What keeps me from being able to see it and live it and know it every moment is the untrue self with which I identify. So I've made this mistake of thinking that that which is not the real self is the real self. The body, the roles, the career, the money, the titles, all of that. And so then I have no idea who I am. Because I've convinced myself that I know who I am. If I go around and I say to you, who are you? You'll give me an age, you'll give me a culture, you'll give me a religion, you'll give me a job, you'll give me some relationships. Maybe you go deeper, you'll give me some psychological issues maybe. So maybe we get from your job to what you struggle with psychologically. But of course, none of that is the true self. But we've convinced ourselves that we know who we are. Oh, who I am is this age, this culture, this religion, that relation. The one with this addiction or that problem or this struggle. Or this skill, this knowledge, this lack. And that sense of being convinced is actually what keeps us from knowing our true self. And so the only thing required is the ability to distinguish between true and untrue. The meditation that we've been doing most nights in satsang, this meditation of carrying the breath to the third eye, is a meditation that gives us the power of discrimination. That's what the Agya Chakra is the energy center of discrimination, not discrimination as in black and white or fat and skinny or beautiful and ugly or rich and poor, but discrimination of true and untrue. Untrue being that which doesn't last, that which comes and goes, that which is fleeting. So it's not a lie that you are the age you think you are. It's not a lie that you have the job you say you do, or the relationship you say you do, or the culture or religion you say you do. It's not a lie. It's just not the true truth. It's not the highest truth. It's not the real truth. And so what the third eye does, and the reason we work to open it, the reason that we worship that power, is because it's through that that we're able to see truth from falsehood in ourselves and in the world. So with these two eyes, we see the world as objects. Nice looking young Indian boy. Nice looking young Indian girl. Nice gentleman, right? This is what we see. Indian, non-Indian, boy, girl. CEO, window washer. Handsome, not handsome. This is what these two eyes see. And of course what we see leads us to judgment, which we were talking about the other night. It leads us, of course, to greed, to lust. I mean, all of the illusions, the aspects of ignorance from which we create actions that give us what we call bad karma, suffering. It's not because we're bad people or sinful people. It's because we falsely identified as the body. We identified as an object. We used only these two eyes to see the world. We misunderstood the world as objects. In that ignorance, we then acted out of it. So if the world are objects, well then either they are something I can use, either just for my own enjoyment or for getting ahead. Someone's a good contact. From someone I can get, a contract, I can do something. Someone's going to give me pleasure, enjoyment. Or someone is a hurdle on my path, an object I need to get out of the way. And out of either of those visions, we act. We act out of lust, out of greed, out of anger. That illusion that we have about the self, we carry it into the world. And so the third eye, because of course it's not these two eyes' fault, it's just that they see only physical matter. They see light, they see shape, they see movement. The power of the third eye is the power of seeing the truth, seeing the divine, knowing, okay. Yeah, look at that. The divine in the form of a nice young Indian boy. The divine in the form of a nice young Indian girl. But it's the divine in that form. It's the ocean having that wave, having this wave. It's the reflection of the sun in this vessel or that vessel. In which case, we're always aware that the wave is ocean, that the reflection is of the sun, that the vessel is one of the divine. And so when we can open that in ourselves, and until it's open, don't worry. This is where we talk about wisdom, gyan, even until and unless I've had the experience, say, of knowing my true self. Well, I know, okay, the saints, the sages, the scriptures, all the teachings say I'm not my body. I'm soul, I'm spirit, I'm essence, I'm consciousness. So until and unless I've had the experience, I can still work with it. I can still do practices of saying, not self. Not self. And in the removal of that which is not self, I'm left with that which is. So you peel back the layers of an onion. You just keep peeling them back, peeling them back, peeling them back. Until you get to what you could call not onion. Right? Not onion. You've pulled back all the layers. There's nothing left. What do you have? Not onion. Not false self. And in that space, we have the experience, the possibility for the experience of who we really are. But we have to remove that which we're not in order to experience that. And this is where practices of, for example, niti. It's a beautiful meditation. It's just not this, not that, not this. So, I'm not my sari. Okay, we all know that. Nobody thinks they are their clothes. Spirituality 101, not your clothes. Next day, not my skin. Okay, we all know that. Get sunburned, you peel, get new skin. Nobody says, I feel like a new person. But you go even deeper. I'm not my blood. We know that. I donate blood, I receive blood. I'm not losing myself or gaining someone else's self. I'm not my organs. And you go, and it's a meditation practice. Literally, you're saying to yourself, not my clothes, okay, I believe that. Not my skin, I believe that. Not my blood, I believe that. Not my organs, I believe that. And you keep going until you've gotten to the point of you're through with all the physical aspects. But then we get a little bit trickier. I'm not my emotions. I'm not my anger. I'm not my fear. I'm not my depression. Well, how do I know that? That takes place in my physical brain. Do something to impact the brain, ranging from taking medicine to taking illicit drugs to getting in an accident and being brain damaged to getting dementia. Anything that impacts the brain on a very purely physical level is going to impact how you feel emotionally. We know this. We know that you can go into the brain with metal probes. The brain doesn't actually have any pain sensors. And so should somebody be going in for, surgery anyway, once the scalp is off, they're actually able to go in with probes. And you can literally probe areas of the brain and make people cry. You can probe areas of the brain and make people angry. You can probe areas of the brain and make people sexually aroused. You can all of the things that feel to us like emotions. Well, that's just what we've called them. That's the box we've put them in. We've said things that take place in the chemical and electrical workings in this part of my body, we're going to call emotions. Now, that's not to minimize them. They've got an incredible power over us. Impacts our physical body. What we think literally creates our physical world. So our thoughts have an incredible power. But the only way to harness that power is when we know we aren't our thoughts. If I am my depression, I am my anxiety. I am my fear. I am my childhood. I am what happened. I am my jealousy. I'm all these things. Well, I'm stuck. I'm the exact opposite of the free soul that all of the enlightened masters keep reminding us we are when they say, stand up. Be fearless. Well, that fearlessness can only come when I stop identifying with this. And so through neti, we literally, not the physical body, but then also not the physical, chemical, and electrical reactions in the brain. And you just keep peeling them back layer by layer. We know I'm not my thoughts because occasionally when I meditate, there's a space between my thoughts. I'm able to find some space between them. And if I were my thoughts, then I would cease to exist between thoughts. Every time I had that moment of thoughtlessness, if I am my thoughts, I would cease to exist. And if I ceased to exist, then who was the one having the next thought? Who was left to have a thought again? So I'm not my thoughts. And you literally just go, and eventually you're left with a spaciousness that the Buddhists tend to refer to as nothingness, the Hindus tend to refer to as everythingness. And it's in that spaciousness that we experience who we are. In that stillness. Because we have to get what we are not out of the way. And so that's one of the most powerful paths, powerful ways. We also can do more direct inquiry. Introspection. Who am I? Who's the one getting angry? Who's the one feeling sad? Who's the one who's afraid? Well, it's not me, because there was a me long before I was angry. There was a me long before I was afraid. Who is that? And the minute that we realize that that's not me, even if you haven't yet experienced who you are, the minute you know, well, that's at least not me, then you go deeper. Well, okay, who's the one watching that? A lot of times in meditation we talk about the witness. Okay, so who's the witness watching? But then you can go deeper. Who's the one aware of the witness? If we say, I'm experiencing witness consciousness, who's saying that? Who knows I'm experiencing witness consciousness? Who is that? Who's that? And we keep going until there's nowhere left to go. And in that space, we experience truth. But along the way, just use that power of discrimination. Use your third eye. Whether it's open or not, this practice will keep opening it. Every time you identify as something not you, tell yourself, oh, not me. Even if you're not in meditation at that moment, you're moving through the world. Not me. Not me. And when you move through the world and you see others, because how we react to the world is how we react to ourselves, as I began with. So you can also begin through the true self of others. If I'm aware that this is the divine, that just happens to be in the form of a sweet young Indian man, then when I meet him, my focus is going to be on, can I see the divine in him? And in order to see the divine in him, only the true self in me can see that. These physical eyes cannot see it. They don't have the capacity. So if I'm seeing him as form, I'm seeing him from a position of form. Then it's form to form, object to object. But if I make a commitment that as I move through the world, I'm going to focus on seeing essence, content, instead of form, well, that has to come from my essence, from my content. And that's another way to get in touch with it. If it's difficult to do it first with the self, then do it with the world. Because what you're going to find is the part of you that is able to connect to the divine in others is your true self.